يا هلا 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 حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the program. This is Let's Talk, coming to you live from Sunning Hill in Johannesburg. Of course, it's on ITV Networks, and we do hope you'll be keeping us company right up until 10 o'clock and have such a broad smile on my face. I'm so happy, and I can't stop making shukr, alhamdulillah, for the beautiful rain that we've been blessed with this morning right here in Johannesburg. It hasn't come down in buckets full, but alhamdulillah, the light, soft showers have already started making a difference, and we're hopeful and we pray, inshallah, that we will get continuous, much needed rain right here in Gauteng province. So on a light note, on a note of good news that the rains have finally come, let's kick off the show this morning and tell you about what we'll be talking about. Victorine and her daughter Stacey Fru Shabangu will be in studio to talk about Stacey Fru's new book, and that has got to do, it's targeted at young children, but I like the theme of the book. It has to do with kidnapping and human trafficking. For a 12-year-old girl to be applying her mind to a serious issue as that, I think is absolutely amazing. Then Dr. Fatima Baba will be talking about her journey through cancer. But first up, we'll be talking to Emergency Control South Africa. They're based on the West Rand in Johannesburg, and all of the work that this group does, amazing group of people, is absolutely and totally on a voluntary basis. Needless to say that they put their lives at risk and on hold because 24/7 they are on call in any emergency situation. So let's welcome Tiana Paleman and Chris Montgomery to the show from Emergency Rescue or Emergency Control South Africa. Good morning, welcome to the program.
Good morning,
Thank you.
very much.
You guys are very brave, you guys are very giving, and you're very certainly paying it forward. Chris, let's start with you. Why do you do it?
I do it because there's a need for it. I have a saying, if you can help one person or change somebody's life, it's the greatest reward you can get.
Doing emergency rescue work does indicate that you put your life at risk as well. Why did you decide to go this route, and what sort of training and what background do you come from that you are able to fill the space, a very, very needed space in our community? Because lots of people, we know in this day and age, if there's a hijacking, if there's a robbery, whatever the case may be, we tend to look the other way simply because we're afraid to intervene, because if we do, we're putting our own lives at risk.
Well, I've been involved with fire and rescue for the last 9 or 10 years. And as a unit, we came together and thought, where is the need for our unit? We brought all the all our training together.
You with CPF?
I was with CPF, yes. A lot of us were. And then we thought, where is the need? There's a lot of SAPs, security companies, JMPD, everybody doing crime-related issues. Where is the need? So we put our minds together and decided find rescues where it needs to be. There are a lot of ambulance companies, private services, as well as your government services that do respond to motor vehicle accidents and medical stuff. But there's a need for fire and rescue.
Fire and rescue. So it's not only fire. If there is a need to assist at an accident scene or any emergency scene, you would go out and try and stabilize and assist as much as you can till the other parties come on board.
So yes, our main function is to stabilize the vehicle. Should there be a cutout to extricate the patient, we're there to assist on that. And that's our main function on scenes. We do stabilize patients until, if we arrive on scene first, until your private or whoever arrives on scene after us. But our main function is to stabilize patients and vehicles.
All on a voluntary basis?
All on a voluntary basis, yes.
Okay. Tiana, you are 18 years old, you're busy writing your matric exams, and you've been involved with ECSA for the past year and a half.
Yes.
For a young girl like yourself, I mean, other girls your age would be out partying, and here you are working 24/7 because you don't only work weekends, you're on call 24/7. How does it impact on your life and your studies?
Well, I do find a balance. I make sure that I've got my studies done before I decide I'm going to be out on the roads and stuff. But overall, I feel like it's impacted me greatly as a person, because I got the exposure in the industry that I'm hoping to go into after I finish school.
Which is what?
Emergency care, emergency medicine. I'm hoping to go and study and to further develop in this industry. So the exposure to the field, it's greatly appreciated, you know, and it's built me as a person.
I know your parents are also involved
Yes.
in this, in the same type of work, the same unit, they're part of the same unit. Are they not a kind of overprotective of you? You're very young and you're having to go on call-outs any time of the day and night. Now, we also do understand you don't go on your own. There is safety in numbers, and you guys do have a plan in place so that there's always safety in numbers. And you also are in constant communication with JMPD, with SAPS and other rescue bodies, just so that there is backup and you together, jointly, you guys can do the best you can.
Yes.
Correct, yes.
So when we go on shift, I'm always with someone from the unit. You know, I'm never out on my own. So the safety, you know, it's not so much as I won't say so much as a risk, but not so much as a concern, knowing that I've got the backup, that I've got, you know, people there that can be able to assist should something go wrong. And yes, having a good relationship with all these other entities, it makes our job a lot, I won't say easier, but lighter, you know.
Just knowing you've got the backup.
We've got that safety.
Chris,
security.
you come from a long history of, you told me your father was a reservist for many years and then he was in SAPS and he's passed on subsequently. You were also a reservist. You've worked for many rescue and, you know, these type of operations. You were involved with tracker as well. So you come, you know, with a very, very solid track record. But having said that, there must be moments of fear in your life when you get a call out. Talk to us about that.
Well, I guess it's human nature to have fear. But on a scene or responding to it, you have to put that in the back of your mind, because that, how could you say it?
Does it get the adrenaline
It gets the
pumping
adrenaline
when you
pumping.
get a call out?
It does, yes. But you have to put the fear behind you, because you need to be focused on what the situation is. So you can't be worried about looking over your shoulder all the time. You need to be focused on what is happening, what needs to be done, and what services you need to call should you need backup. So yes, fear is human nature, but try your
You're there
hardest.
to help. You're there to
help.
do, to make a difference. Both your parents are also involved in the same service. And this is purely voluntary.
Yes.
It also means that you guys are having to put your hands in your pocket all the time to make sure that that the unit doesn't kind of fold up and die natural death.
Yeah.
How is it sustainable for you as a family and for you, Chris? Let's go to you first.
Well, both my parents obviously have day jobs, you know, so they're able to, you know, pay for this. And obviously there's a big financial burden having to pay for training, you know, for all of us. Me being relatively new in the industry, all my training has to be paid for and stuff. So yes, there is that financial burden, but it's what we love doing. So we have to do what we can to make it work, you know.
Chris, you guys use your own personal cars. You've fitted out the cars with necessary equipment. Tell us about that, and also what it cost you guys to run this unit on a monthly basis.
Well, all our vehicles, we've got 4 vehicles that we currently run that are permanently running.
Personal vehicles.
Personal vehicles. We've kitted them out with all our rescue equipment. So we've got engine 1 and 2, and then rescue 1 and 2. So engine 1 and 2 is the firefighting vehicles. which has got hoses, standpipes, everything to hook up to hydrants, and self-containing breathing apparatus to go into burning buildings and to search and rescue, high-angle equipment for various things that we need to rescue patients off cliffs or that sort of stuff, and then swift water as well. So we do a lot of water-related calls as well. And then the rescue vehicles, which will have your vehicle stabilizing tools and that sort of stuff for motor vehicle accidents. All our members are fire qualified in Fire 1, 2, hazmat awareness and advanced aircraft rescue. So all of us have the same qualifications. It's just everybody specializes in a different.
You've told me that you're also on standby for Gift of the Givers, and you actually went on a couple of missions with them. Tell us about those missions and how has it impacted you as a person?
I've been deployed twice with Gift of the Givers. I've been to Indonesia last year for the earthquake and tsunami, and then last year was, well, beginning of the year, was the Mozambique disaster there. Impact, I think Indonesia was the thing that impacted me a little bit more than Mozambique did.
What was it that impacted on you so heavily?
Not being able to find as many people as we would like to. I mean, walking through the streets, all you see is little kids' shoes and teddy bears and that sort of stuff. So knowing that they're out there, buried under the ground, swept out into the ocean. I mean, you had the tsunami, you had the earthquake, and the liquefaction factor that just sucked everything into. So, I mean, we didn't find a lot of people, and I don't think the total body count was ever.
And you'd still walk away feeling that you haven't done quite enough.
Always, always.
Do you feel at any point that you're burning out? And if you do you guys go for counseling, or how do you support each other?
Yes, you have that feeling. Sometimes you're burning out. Yes, you're on the road all the time. Your phone is always on, so don't get much sleep. You're always waiting for that.
But obviously you do it because you know it's making a difference. And we've come to the end of this part of the interview. Good luck with your studies going forward. I admire you, such a young girl like you, putting your life into voluntary work, and you're amazing. Continue touching lives in a positive way and be there for us, just a phone call away.
Always, thank you. Always. Thank you very much.
Emergency Control South Africa is what they call themselves. They're based on the West Rand in Johannesburg, and you've heard their areas of service. It stretches quite widely. We will give you the number in a little while. There's a hotline number. I might as well just give it to you now, 072-641-0111. But when the next two members come in, they'll talk some more about how the foundation got started. Emergency Control South Africa are the people we're talking to this morning. It's really about selfless service. These are the guys that come to the rescue without expecting any monetary value for the services they offer. But that's not to say that we shouldn't try and reward them in any way, because they do this purely on a voluntary basis. And you heard early on, just before the ad break, that it costs them up to 15,000 rands a month personally in running the rescue service. So next in studio we have Keegan Townsend and Tiana's dad, Harold Paleman. Morning, welcome to the program.
Good morning, thank you for having us.
Nice to have you guys here. How did you guys get started? I also know that Ismail Mita, who is based in Durban, runs the control center there. And logistically, does that work for you guys? And how do you people come into the picture?
Yes, Ismail runs the dispatching section of emergency control. We haven't experienced any delays in responding and things.
Let's just understand, how does it work? There's this obviously hotline number, which is 072-641-0111. And does that say, because Ismail is based in Durban, you guys service, obviously you here on the West Rand, and Ismail has volunteers down in KZN servicing that part of the country as well.
Yes. Ismail's connected into all the ambulance companies, fire and rescue and things in KZN. We dispatch nationally, so we're able to assist national with whatever emergency through our Zello channel and things like that. Where Ismail would be able to, or any of the moderators on the Zello channel would be able to dispatch necessary services to your emergency on the ground. We don't have members
throughout the country
on the ground, but we do have access to whichever resources that you may need in whichever part of the country that you are in.
Well, let's hope by way of this interview that more and more people come on board and start operating and creating groups, emergency groups, and they can hook into this system. You talk about the Zello system. What's that?
The Zello system is it's an app that we've basically got. It's an Android app that we've got on all our phones and things like that. There's a lot of emergency services, ER24, Netcare, Fire, and things like that that all have access to Zello. It's a form of communication, like a two-way radio, but national.
Can the ordinary person in the street have access to the Zello system, or do you have to be in a rescue operation?
You can download the Zello app onto your phone. So any normal civilian can download the Zello app. There are certain channels which only emergency services will have access to and things like that. So for example, if you download the Zello app and you have a look at and you look for the Emergency Control South Africa channel, you'd be able to request. So any of the moderators will be able to pick up that you're requesting assistance, but you won't be able to communicate. So they then dispatch for you.
I don't want to start something on the show here, but I need to ask this question. So let's assume I download this app.
Yes.
And please God, let me never have any emergencies. But if there is an emergency situation in my life, can I then go to the app and request assistance?
Yes, you can. Yeah, we've got various forms, platforms where you're able to request assistance. Namola is also, which is driven by Dial Direct, I believe, is also a very good app to download, and the
response time is quick.
With Namola works very, very simple. You download the app, it's free of charge. You've got a panic button on your phone. You push the panic button on your phone. Within 2 seconds, one of the controllers from Namola calls you back, and they will then find out what is the emergency. Is it fire? Have you been in an accident? Is it crime related? Within 10 seconds, that person calls you back, and then they dispatch the necessary people to you.
And I presume you and your group work very closely with Namola as well.
Yes, so we on what you call the Namola Watch app. So when you request assistance, we get a notification immediately that you requesting with your exact location. So it gives us GPS coordinates and everything. We can navigate directly to you immediately, saves time. There's no getting lost with addresses and things like that. You know, for example, I'm on the corner of First and Fifth,
yes.
and we're looking for First and Fifth, and we can't find First and Fifth. So there's a delay in getting you the help that you need. With Namola, they pinpoint you exactly where you are. We can navigate to you. So there's a lot of time that is also being saved using the Namola app.
Keegan, you're part of the family. You are obviously Harold's son-in-law. How did you then get involved? Simply by marrying his daughter, or?
No. When I was done with matric, I didn't know what to do as yet. So my father-in-law decided to let me come on a few ride-alongs with them, and it pulled me in.
Okay, but you have had all the necessary training.
Yes, I have.
And you're also in the business, so you guys are able to respond. I mean, you have day jobs. Obviously, you need to put bread on the table.
Yes.
But
the day job allows us to assist the community.
Absolutely.
I'm sure Chris mentioned that the majority of the funding comes out of our pockets, and it's quite a bit of
it's
money.
A strain. It's a strain.
It is a bit of a strain. I mean.
But having said that, just look at the amazing work. Just look at the support you're giving to the community, and you definitely are in service and paying it
Yeah.
forward. You also have great relationships with all the other authoritative bodies in and
Yes.
around, like SAPS, like JMPD,
Yes.
like the fire services,
Yes.
etc. What was the most challenging situations, and going forward, how can you even grow this organization bigger and better? So challenges and future growth.
Challenges, a lot of the challenges that we experience at the moment is a lot monetary. There's a lot more training that the members want to do and things like that. We've got to pay for it. Training is very, very expensive. Equipment is very, very expensive. I mean, for your full fire gear, with your self-contained breathing apparatus and things like that. And that affords you to be able to go into a burning building, because you cannot go into a burning building without that. I mean, there's toxic fumes and things. So in order for us to go in and rescue and assist somebody, we need to have this equipment. For each member to be fully equipped, just for their fire suit, self-contained breathing apparatus and such, you're looking at in the region of almost 30,000 rand.
Sure. Per annum, obviously.
No. That your fire gear needs to be changed regularly.
How regularly?
Depends on the type of scene that you're on. Sometimes, I mean, I've gone through suits in my 20 odd years that I've been in the industry. I've gone through, I can't even count the amount of suits.
Is that how long you've been in operation?
No, emergency control has been, the fire and rescue side has been in operation for about 2 years. Emergency control as a dispatching organization has been in existence for about 5 years. I've been involved in emergency services since I left Matric 20 odd years ago.
So you come with a very solid background, obviously,
Yes.
and this adds value to your current organization.
Yes.
How can you grow bigger, and how do you, what is it that you can do to get more people on board? Because I should imagine you've got a nice close-knit team,
Yes.
but more hands on deck
Yes,
will make a big difference.
We are currently busy with a recruitment drive where we're looking at two things. Number one, we're looking at getting children off the street. In our communities, drugs at this stage is a major, major problem. When we sat down, the executive, we said, what can we do? Chris said we came from a CPF background and things. That has become a very reactive approach to the problem. Whereas we're saying, let's be proactive and let's show the kids out there that there's something better to do. I think the problem with children at the moment, our young adults of today, they've just got too much time on their hands.
True.
They've got way too much time, and that opens up the door to them starting to experiment and get into all sorts of mischief and trouble and things like that. And before they realize it, they're hooked, and it's a problem.
Downward spiral.
It's a downward spiral from there.
As a young man, what do you believe the unit can do to take children off the street, thinking from, a young person's perspective? What's going to make a difference to turn young people around?
Well, like Harold said, we do have drives. So them seeing what we're doing, because we do have a Facebook page, so them seeing our photos, our videos of what we're doing, and obviously me and Diana going out there, speaking to them, will turn heads for most of them. And yes, that's what I believe that we can do.
Harold, you do say that one of the biggest problems in our communities, never mind nationally, but globally, is the issue of drugs, illicit drugs. You are saying it's a challenge. Your focus is on emergency rescue.
Yes.
But you're wanting to do more as far as saving our children. What is it that you're planning?
What we're looking at doing is we've started our cadet program. So we're going to be going into the schools, getting children involved, so giving them a bit of fire education and things. Obviously, before they really 16, 17, they can't really be, but there's a lot of things that we can use them. For example, when Tiana started out, she used to run hydrants and do scene safety. So once the cones is out, she used to stand there with a traffic wand and just direct traffic. There's a lot of things that we can, everybody can do on a fire scene, on an accident scene that not necessarily involve being in the thick of it, but assists.
And every small action counts.
Yes.
We've almost come to the end of the interview, 2 minutes to wrap up time. The important message that you want to leave our viewers with, and it's the first time I've heard of you guys, and we know, sad to say, that if you try and get hold of an ambulance service, or even SAPS for that matter, if there's some sort of a home invasion or an emergency, it's very frustrating. A lot of people complain that it takes forever. People also complain that if the ambulance service had been there on time, the patient's life would have been saved. How do you fill that gap? And can we call on you rather than go through the other services?
We are always willing to assist. We are always there to assist. The story, unfortunately, the state of affairs that we are in the country at the moment is there's a sad lack of resources, which is one of the reasons why we started. We're there to bridge the gap between getting you intermediate or advanced life support from the time that the incident has happened, whether it be your house has caught on fire, you've been in an accident, you've fallen down and injured yourself. We're there to bridge that gap. So we would be more than willing to assist. We respond almost throughout the entire West Rand.
Okay, we've unfortunately come to the end. How do people get in touch with you, young people and even older people, to become a part of your organization? And how can the viewers help you? What sort of help do you need?
Well, sponsorships would be greatly appreciated. I don't know if Chris has given you the account number. They can deposit directly into the emergency control.
Just give us a website address. That's all that we need.
Well, the website is www.ecsa.org.za. That should be up. We're busy. It's down at the moment. We are busy doing updates and things on it. So it should be up by Monday morning. It should be back up. It's got all our banking details, all our contact details. And if they want to contact and become volunteers, they can contact Ishmael, and he will put them in touch with Chris, and we can get the ball rolling from there.
Good on you guys. Continue touching lives in the way you are. You truly are angels of mercy. God be with you every step of the way. Thank you, and continue doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Lovely chatting to you guys. And there you have it. They're amazing people in our communities. Here is a classic example of people putting their own lives on the line and paying it forward, making us a little safer, and also being at the end of the line when you need someone in an emergency. So all I can say is God bless. Still to come on the show, Dr. Fatima Baba and her journey through cancer. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and every year without fail, we here at ITV Networks do our bit in getting all of the specialists in, people to talk about the issue, to make people aware, to make you and I aware of the risks, and also to self-examine and to make certain that if you find something suspicious on your breast or anywhere else on your body, go out, be brave enough to have it examined, and if further investigations have to be done, just know that you've taken a step in the right direction. Today on the show I have a medical doctor, but she too has walked this journey, the journey of breast cancer, and I think, talking to a medical professional just brings another perspective to the issue of breast cancer, because I think she can be pretty candid about the issue, and then also how she coped with it. And by her being on the show this morning will give the rest of us the courage and the conviction to follow through if we find anything suspicious on our bodies, medically speaking, of course. Dr. Fatima Baba, assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Walaikum salam. Thank you, Auntie Julie, for having me on your show. Just to clarify, I didn't have breast cancer. I
am so sorry. I do apologize.
No, that's fine. A lot of people assume because I'm female and I've had cancer, we just, put it in the same basket. I actually had colon CA, which I don't think is any less from having breast cancer.
Absolutely.
It's pretty much, it's not the same, but it's the same emotional and physical
It's a cancer,
turmoil.
for goodness sake.
It's a cancer anyway. And as a woman, you go through the same sort of, feelings and emotions. I do, however, And I'm going to say this, that when you have breast cancer, it's a lot more, I think, because losing a breast for us is our identity.
Absolutely. It takes away your femininity.
It takes away your femininity.
But that being said, Fatima, I don't want to minimize the issue around breast cancer. It's all in the news right now, but I had a guest a couple of weeks ago talking about cervical cancer. And what she said to me is that there is not enough attention being paid to cervical cancer. And she says it's as deadly, if not more deadlier, than breast cancer.
Well, the thing is, I think we have this perception that breast cancer is a killer, and yes, it is, not to take away from it in any way. But there are so many other cancers, like you just mentioned, the cervical CA, there's colon CA, which is on the rise excessively, especially in young people. So just a little bit history about colon cancer. It was generally believed that it is a cancer of older people. So it would happen after 65. It's based on eating habits, stress levels. Your colon basically gets all the dirt off the body, and as the years go by, the toxins develop, and hence, you develop colon CA. Obviously, genetic factors and things play an important role. But in the last sort of 5 to 7 years, there's been an increase in colon CA and death in young people from colon cancer.
How old were you when you obviously
diagnosed?
picked
27.
And Alhamdulillah, I would like to think you're in total remission.
So Alhamdulillah, I am in remission, shukr. I went through the entire ordeal. It was really, it was very traumatic. It tests your deen, it tests your faith, it tests a lot of things. I think in you just generally. You don't, at 27, your perception or your outlook on life is very different. Death is not something that features, and I know Islamically it should be at the back of our minds all the time. But we do get caught up in life, and you just sort of prioritize and focus on a lot of different things.
We think we're going to live forever.
Yeah, and we always say, after this, there's always something after which you are going to reassess your life, unfortunately.
And the other very important thing, it's not going to happen to me. And very especially you as a medical doctor, how much of an awakening was it for you? And how did you first suspect that something's wrong here? Or was it just picked up by a very routine physical?
Okay, so mine was it was like, I don't know, I think Allah just wanted us to find it, to be honest. It was very not conventional. So I'm not sure, I'm just going to tell you my story. And then you can understand, right? So I had gotten married the first time when I was 19 years old. And I had gotten divorced when I was 23. And thereafter, I just made this decision that I would never get married. I would never have kids. And my entire focus in life was going to be my career. And that was what I was going to focus on, because I tried everything else and, it didn't work out. So my entire life revolved around becoming a specialist. And that was the only thing that mattered, nothing else. So it was studying, it was working, and in between you kind of do a little bit of family time. But that was, my goal in life. I was going to be the best specialist in the world, that's it. And I was studying for my exams, and I was just tired. And when you specializing as a medical professional and you work long hours, you do sort of 36 hours, you on call every third night, you've got to study, you've got to teach other doctors, you've got to present, it's a lot of things. So just being a human, you'd be like, I have a lot on my plate, I'm going to be tired. It's normal, it's not
so you were exhausted all the time?
Just exhausted. I was just tired all the time. Then I started having a little bit of shortness of breath. So when I was at work and I would walk around, and you generally rushing around a lot, I would find myself becoming, a little bit short of breath. And my mum would come up from Standerton on the weekends, and she would look at me and she would go, you look like death. And I was like, please, I really don't need this in my life right now. I just want to study. And she would say, no, you don't look good. You look gray, you don't have any color, you're sleeping all the time, or if you're not sleeping, you're studying, you don't look good. I went to the doctor because my mother was nagging me. Not because I thought I needed to go, not because I thought there was anything wrong with me. I was like, if my mother could just stop nagging me, that would be
Right.
great. So we lived across the road from the Brenthurst Clinic. I went there one day, one afternoon. I came home from work early. I took my textbook and I went to a physician and I just sat there and I said, look, can you please just check me because my mother's on my case and I really just need to study and I cannot be dealing with someone saying to me every day, you look sick, you look like death, you look terrible, you look grey. And I went to the doctor and they did a whole lot of tests and basically found my HB to be 6. It should be between 10 and 12. So I had been losing blood somewhere, obviously. But after that, they had put it down to you're menstruating, you're female, you're anemic, it can be whatever. And still my mother looked at me and she said, no, there's something else wrong with you. I know it, there's something wrong with me. She takes me to a friend of hers and she says, please do a CT scan. I know medical aid may not pay, they may, whatever. I will.
Mother's intuition, hey?
That's it. So I think my time was not then. I had a bigger purpose in the world. And so we found
the CT scan picked up the fact
So we
that
found a big mass in my colon. It was about 12 centimeters long. And then it was just a whirlwind. So they found
what happened then? Let's talk about the treatment.
So what happened was I went in for the CT scan and they generally, well, they don't usually, but we had done 2 different types of CT scans. So I had to spend the night. The next morning, doctor
The
came
reason
in.
being 2 different types, and what were the differences?
The one is just the normal CT scan where, you drink I think it's called a contrast, and they basically get the pictures. And the second one was a newer version of a CT scan where you drink 2 different types of contrast, and they are 3D. You get a 3D picture of the entire part of the body that you are scanning. So you don't just get, if people are aware, a CT scan is just like a black and white picture.
Yes.
Whereas the new one is a 3D picture
Coloured.
of the entire area. So you actually see, if you were doing a breast, you would see the entire breast. If you're doing like a larynx, you would see the entire
and
larynx.
obviously that gives you a perfect picture of what exactly the state of the organ is.
Correct. So you can see, where it starts, where it ends, not so much whether it's extended out. You can see it, but I mean, you can't tell exactly. For me, though, what was very, in retrospect, it was 6 a.m. I had just I think I was still asleep, and the doctor walked in and said, you have cancer.
Oh,
there was no
counseling or anything.
Yeah,
no preparation.
The doctor walked in and just kind of went, there's a mass in your colon, it's definitely cancer.
How did you deal with it when he told you that? Would you have preferred a different approach? Or sometimes these doctors see so much of disease
being
and
a doctor
death.
myself, I think we just become
blasé.
desensitized, and I don't think they mean it in any bad manner. But as the patient and being on the other side, sometimes you just want someone to kind of say, okay, let's call a family member. Let's maybe make sure you're not alone, or you have support, or there's someone there.
I think just that in itself, Fatima, when they call a family member, you know that it's going to be bad news.
But it just, because the first thing for me was, as soon as I heard that, I picked up the phone and I called my mother. Or, that's like your first. So if they... or maybe they could just make sure someone's there with you before they, it's just, it makes you feel a bit better.
What did you feel like in that moment? I mean, here you are a medical doctor.
Honestly, I was...
And you being given this dreaded news.
I think I was very delusional at the time, honestly. It didn't register. For me, I thought, oh God, like a bump in the road, like I really just need to get out of here. Exams are in 2 weeks' time.
I need to get on with my life.
Like exams are in 2 weeks' time. Like I really just tell me what I need to do. I need to get out of here. I need to get back to my books. I don't have time for this. That was my initial response. And it was, I don't even think it was the right response, but that was my response.
Shock, probably.
I think just priorities were so messed up. Like the only priority in your life is to be this person, and to get there you need to get through these exams, which in retrospect are so trivial. I mean, life is so much bigger than
That just brings me, the thought that comes to mind is the pressure on the matriculants. But let's hold that thought. We're going for our first ad break. Dr. Fatima Baba is in studio talking about her journey through cancer, and I erroneously said that she had breast cancer, but she's just corrected us. It wasn't breast, it is colon cancer, but nonetheless, cancer anyway, and a fascinating story to be listening to. And I think we will be able to take lots of life lessons from Fatima on the show this morning. Time for an ad break. Welcome back. Dr. Fatima Baba is my guest. We're talking cancer, colon cancer this time around, and her journey through cancer. How did she cope, and where is she at this point in her life? Alhamdulillah.
So Julie, I'm just going to give you like a quick summary, right? So basically what happened is diagnosed quickly into surgery and then chemo for 11 months thereafter.
Did you kind of say to yourself at any point in time, but I'm not ready for this?
So a lot of the times, honestly, I sat back and I was like, Ya Allah, why me? Honestly, why me? There's like a billion people on this planet. I've already had one test. They say Allah doesn't test you more than you cannot handle.
Absolutely.
I've already been divorced. I've already been tested. Why me? And then it's sort of, I don't know, sometimes the penny just drops in, and then I realized, I was like, you know what? I was at a point in my life where I was I wasn't in a good space. I was very focused on being a specialist. I didn't really have time for family. I never wanted to be married. Kids were not important for me. Islam was in my life, but it wasn't I was not a spiritual person at all. I would read my salah and what have you because I had to. We have to read salah, and so we read salah.
The rituals.
We have to fast because we fast. I didn't really do it because it meant anything to me.
And this journey through your illness reconnected you to everything that is purposeful in your life.
Yes, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I think it's not a good disease to have, but honestly, I think Allah only gives people that He wants to bring closer to Him.
Alhamdulillah. Challenges through all of this, Fatima. Days when you were too sick to even possibly lift your head, and possibly also, I know as Muslims we shouldn't be saying this, but wish to die rather than go through all of this?
I was very blessed, and my mother is amazing. I don't think she even allowed me to have those days, honestly. And I had a very good support structure.
Alhamdulillah.
I can't be more grateful and more thankful to them. My mother believed that...
And you've got several sisters. You have one or two sisters who are doctors as well.
I've got two sisters who are doctors and one who's a lawyer. And then I've got my mum and I've got my brother-in-laws, who are just amazing people. I mean, they would sit with me throughout my chemo. So I had chemo every 3 weeks for 1 week, Monday to Friday, 8 to 4. They would take turns to sit with me. I was never alone. My mum would be like, okay, get up now, it's time to go. I'm like, I really don't want to. She's like, you can vomit anyway. There are dustbins in the whole of Johannesburg if you feel like vomiting, because that's a lot. The chemo gives you a lot of nausea.
How sick were you after your chemo?
You get very ill. You vomit a lot. You have no energy. Your hair falls, your eyebrows, your eyelashes. For me, it's emotionally taxing. So I had hair down to here. Initially. And I was actually counseled by my doctor, who said to me, please cut your hair. And I couldn't understand it then. I mean, I was obviously, doctor-wise, yes, I understood it. But from a patient perspective, you're like,
you didn't want to accept it.
And it's just because when longer locks of hair fall, it's more traumatic. Because it looks like bigger chunks than if shorter chunks
and
of hair.
And that again, the crowning glory of any woman is her hair. It's part of your beauty. That must have been shocking for you.
It's very hard, I think it's, and not only for women, I think it's just emotionally taxing for any person. We pride ourselves in our hair, your eyebrows, your eyelashes. It just makes you who you are. So you're losing all of this on top of being constantly ill. You're constantly sick. And I feel for the people who have to get up and go to work, they have to go, they have no other option. So I feel as a community, we should try our best to help as many people as we possibly can, because it's really not a nice thing to go through.
When did you start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel? When did you know that you were on the road to recovery and that you're going to have a life after all of this?
You know, I don't think you know ever, because you can be in remission, but having come from cancer, you always have it at the back of your mind. Your oncologist always says to you, you've got this much risk in the general population to develop a cancer at another stage. And just earlier this year, I had a breast cancer scare. So I had a lump in my breast and everyone was all in a tiz because the chances of it being a cancer were much higher for me than it would have been for anybody else. And the stress is always there, you know. I do try my best, so exercise, a healthy diet. But you know, it's all in Allah's hands at the end of the day.
Absolutely. You said that you had an amazing support system, that's your immediate family. But beyond them, did you go for other support, counseling? Was that a need in your life, or was your family enough for you?
You know, family is always enough, but you always need a third party. My mother insisted that I see someone else.
Wow.
She was like, you must go and talk.
Your mother sounds amazing.
No, she's I mean, all mothers and daughters have their issues, but she was very good in a caregiver role.
Right.
She was really amazing. And so were my sisters. And I mean, it was around the Soccer World Cup. And Julie, I kid you not, they took me to every match, literally. They would take blankets, they would take a stretcher, they would take equipment, they would take everything that I needed.
Wow.
And not everyone is blessed with that opportunity.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's not.
That was part of your healing and wanting. A lot of it is very is psychological. Yeah,
you need to want to get better.
Absolutely. How desperately did you want to get better?
So initially, not really, because I had no purpose in life. My only purpose was to be a specialist, and that was taken away from me. So, like, you know, I thought, okay, that's the end of my life now. And then I sat back and I thought, okay, let's just break this down. Why me? And we don't ask that question. We shouldn't be asking it. Then I started saying, okay, what can I learn from this? And what can I do to better myself? And then everything started making sense, you know, reassess my life, bring my salah back into my life, my connection with Allah, my connection with my family.
And yet you've gone on to marry and have two beautiful children.
No, alhamdulillah. I mean, a community, people, you know, and I'm just going to put this in there.
We've got 2 minutes to wrap up.
Okay, so I think our community needs to be a little bit awakened. People would come and visit you and they would go, oh my God, why are you awake? Like, shouldn't you be sleeping? You know, or why is she out? People would come home and my mother would insist that you need to walk every day. And my sisters would be like, you can't sit cooped up in this house. Even if you're sitting in the park across the road, go and sit there. People would visit and they would go, oh, like,
she must be okay.
She's fine. Yeah. But they don't actually know what you're going through. Just because you're going through something does not mean you have to be in the confines of your home. And also people are very quick to judge. You know, people would go like, oh my God, she's never going to get married. She's never going to have kids. Well, they did tell me I would never have kids. So my children are a blessing from Allah. Alhamdulillah. And there's a lot of stigma. You're divorced. Now you've got cancer. Like you are shelved forever.
Absolutely. In closing, Fatima, as a medical doctor and as someone who's in remission of colon cancer, what is the strong message you want to leave with men and women as far as dreaded diseases are concerned? And the question, why me? Or it'll never happen to me.
So I think we need to pay more attention to our bodies. I think we always just, and I was guilty of it. I was like never, you know, I'm just tired, you know. If you're feeling something, have it looked at. Rather be safe than sorry. At the end of the day, rather know than not know. So generally, your gut knows. If you're not feeling well, you know you're not feeling well. Listen to yourself.
Absolutely.
You know, don't try and be this martyr, hero. You know, it's never going to happen to me.
Listen to your body.
Listen to your body.
After my final question, after the breast cancer scare you had earlier this year, how are you moving forward? Because you've already had the colon cancer and you've said that in the back of your mind, you've got to be aware all the time, but you don't want it to haunt you.
You know, you've got to, I think we've got to accept it for what it is. There was a scare, it's not there, alhamdulillah, move on. a lot of people tend to harbor in the past, and it's very easy to get into that rut. I mean, personally, I was there for a while. You know, you go through phases where you're like, oh, my tummy's sore, maybe I have cancer, or it's back again, and you've actually you've consciously got to stop being that person. It doesn't just happen. You've got to be conscious about everything all the time, because you could easily just be like, oh, I got cancer again, my tummy is paining, my stomach is sore, my breast is sore, my this is sore. It's very easy.
Mm-hmm. It's very easy to get into a rut, so you need to be positive and you need to be proactive.
You know, but having said that, we also need to know that our life and death is written from Allah.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely.
So you do what you can and Allah will do the rest.
Ameen. Jazakallah for being with us on the show this morning. Undoubtedly, you've given a lot of people something to hold on to and to know that it's Allah's will, and whatever it is, it's going to get better, and everything happens for a reason. So alhamdulillah for being with us on the show this morning. Allah is the best of planners. That was Dr. Fatima Baba talking about her journey through colon cancer, and what a story. I hope she's going to write a book sometime soon. Still to come on this show, Victorine and Stacey Frew talking about Stacey's new book. Welcome back to the final segment of the show this morning. We now have mom and daughter in studio, Victorine and Stacey Frew Shabangu, to talk about Stacey Frew's new book, book number 5. She's only 12 years old and she's gone on to write her 5th book. She was a mere 7 years old when she wrote her first book. We're going to ask this young lady what inspires her and why does she write in the themes that she does. Stacey and Victorine, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us this morning.
My, how you've grown. From the last time I had you on my show, you're a little girl. And look at you, all grown up. Lovely to have you on show again.
Thank you.
And we're here to talk about Where is Tammy? Book number 5.
Number 5, yes.
Okay, how do you feel about it?
Well, these 2 books that were published on the same day at the same time, I feel very proud of the themes that I chose because they're very deep themes compared to my other 3 books, and they tackle more harder topics that
social issues, right?
Yes, social issues that are faced between children my age.
Okay. We're talking about Where's Tammy, but what's the other book and why are you pushing Where's Tammy over the other book?
So the other book is Tim's Answer, which focuses on finding your role model within your African society. But the reason why I'm pushing Where's Tammy is because Where's Tammy tackles a broader issue of child abduction and child kidnapping, which is why I want to promote it more than Tim's Answer.
What made you decide this as a theme? Because it's pretty serious, but I've read the book. It's very easy to read for both children and adults alike as well. And for us adults, it gives us tools to really share with our children. So you read this book and you read it with them. You're able to help them with the questions that they ask you and explain stranger danger and everything else that goes with it. So I think that was a marvelous piece of work. But how did you decide to do this?
So it all came about when I was 9 years old in 2016, when I was doing a play with the Department of Safety and Security. And I made this play about this boy that went missing while he was doing grocery shopping with his father. So eventually my parents pushed me to turn my play, which I created with my siblings and and 2 of my older brothers' friends. Then I developed the play, into a book and just added more things and more information because I was 9 years old, and by the time I was developing it, I was 11, so I'd gain more knowledge about this social issue, so I just added on from there.
Now, whilst you were writing the book, if and when you were uncertain about certain issues, like stranger danger or whatever have you, whom did you go to for verification, for support, and for added information? Mom and dad, or did you research the stuff on your own?
So I did a lot of researching on my own on the internet. I visited websites which were for South Africa. I didn't really feel comfortable visiting abroad websites because that didn't correlate with what I was trying to promote for African children and South African children, basically. But I did do a lot of research and went to my parents as well as my older brother.
And you kind of went along with their suggestions or their guidance, so to speak.
Yes, most definitely.
Victorine, you must be very proud not only of Stacey Frew, but all of your other children, because in their own right, you have 3 other children, am I correct?
Yeah.
They all have their little areas of expertise. And I know this is Stacey's moment, but please tell us a little bit about the other children. What is it that they're up to while she's busy writing books?
I like that question, and thank you so much. Shannon is the first child, who is a boy. And right now he's 14 and he has completely lost himself.
Finding himself.
Yeah.
Robin's trying to find himself.
I think that is the right word, but I'm not yet experienced to know the definition. But he loves sport. That is the one thing you cannot take away from him. Shannon loves his sport, be it basketball, be it athletics, be it the jumping, everything that comes with it. And he also loves music. He's tried to rap, and here and there, we've actually given him bigger platforms where he's done it. But now, like I said, these few months after he turned 14 in April, we're struggling to find out what exactly he loves. He is still, finding himself. And then this is Stacey. We've got Sinclair. Sinclair is a left-handed. She's 10 now. She is also trying to follow in Stacey's footsteps, right?
Has she written yet?
She's written about 3 books, 3 different topics, and
But
the
not
latest
published.
one, not published. So we're trying to escape from siblings' pressure.
Yes.
We are trying to find out, because Shannon also wrote, when Stacey wrote the first book, Smelly Cat, Shannon wrote a complete book. We edited, prepared it for publishing, but something struck me. I thought to myself, if I publish Shannon, it's going to be maybe something preparing my children for sibling rivalry. Because he might not be as successful as Stacey. Stacey had written out of love. He had written because he wanted to compete with Stacey. So it's the same thing with Sinclair. We want
Didn't
to
he
see...
feel put down by that action of yours? Or feel that there's favoritism going on here?
We had a talk with him, and this is how I came to decide that. We were driving one afternoon, and we had a phone call for Stacey for an interview. And after the phone call, he said to me, why is it that every journalist calls to interview Stacey and nobody calls to interview him? And he has written his own book. So I said to him, actually, there would be a call for you, but I want to ask you something. Should there be a soccer match, and then the highest, most respectable president in the world, at that time it was Obama, and Obama comes and says to you, he wants you to come present your book. At the same time, a sports team is calling you to come, a soccer team. Which are you going to choose? And he said to me without a blink, Mommy, I'll go to soccer. And I said to him, that is it. That is the reason we're not publishing your book, because it's not a passion. It's not something that is innate. You're doing it to compete with your sister. So he eventually understood, even though he still talks about it now and then. And I've told him, when you're a teenager, full-blown, and you still want to publish, we will. I'm a publisher.
And the other 2 kids?
And yes, Sinclair and Sydney, the same thing. Sydney is 7 years old. He plays soccer. So he's still at that point where he does what we tell him to do. He's not yet rebellious. And he's also writing. So the thing
So you
is...
think your kids are getting it from you because you've published 2 or 3 books already, have you not? And you're in the process... 4 books, and in the process of writing another book.
Of publishing the 5th one. I have the 5th one ready, but my intention now, I'm trying to get into the academics. So I'm trying to still settle myself whether I want to publish that 5th book or get my PhD.
PhD in what?
In family sexuality communications. Yes, so I want to study sexuality communications within African families particularly.
Obviously, the children follow your lead and your husband's lead. You guys are very parent or very child-focused and try to get the best out of your children, make them realize their potential. But at any point, do they ever complain perhaps about too much pressure? And if that does come up, how do you deal with it?
Yeah, we have asked them a few times, and we have noticed in them, especially my son, because he's so good in soccer, he plays with the older groups in school, the older classes, and we see that pressure. What we do is I make them take compulsory naps, particularly, especially weekends, so that they just relax. We make them stay home a lot. We deprive them from going to social events that will work them up more, and we try to keep them home, but we try to spend a lot of time.
Doesn't that create more resentment? Because teenagers now want to be out and about with their friends, maybe in the malls, movies, whatever.
It does, but it has to. You cannot raise children without them resenting you. Then you're failing, because parenting is it's an attraction of resentment.
Yeah.
No, to be honest,
you can't be
a cool parent. I cannot be a cool parent. So I would rather strike a balance that is psychologically correct for my child and get that resentment and expose them to destroy them psychologically and get love.
Stacey, how do you feel about what Mom has said now? And you've written 5 books. How do you see yourself going forward, very especially with Mom has just said now?
With what Mom has just said now, I guess, you know, I still fail to understand where she's going with all the psychological stuff, but I'm not going to compete because it's not my household anyway, so I'll just bear with it and keep it in mind. But
she's the boss.
I guess, her and Dad, yeah. And to take my writing forward, I just guess I have to open my barriers up wider, get more communications from outside of South Africa, and travel more and meet new people.
In your journey of writing, did you ever feel that you were being pushed more and more into it? Or was this truly a work of passion? It's what you want to do, it's what you wanted to do at the time, and that is why you were able to publish 5 books.
So when I first published Smiley Cats and I started getting a lot of media attention, I didn't know what was going on. So I didn't like it anymore. So I was sort of resentful towards writing my second book, Bob and the Snake. But then I came to the realization that many kids felt inspired by what I was doing and many kids looked up to me. So then I was like, okay, so I am making such a big impact on some children's lives, and the instant love for writing came back, and so that is why I continue.
You're continuing the journey in writing. Going forward, this is your 5th book. What are you planning perhaps next year or a few years from now?
So we're focusing on my foundation and we're starting to do more campaigns. We have the African Children of the Year Awards coming up next week or 2 weeks from now. And what I'm trying to do with the foundation is get it more recognition so that we can help more people from deprived communities, specifically children who need help towards their education and towards their well-being. So that is what we're
Tell us more about the foundation. When was it start and how do you help them monetarily, or how do you help them as far as getting their needs met?
So the foundation was first started late 2016 when I started doing the safety and security program, but it was officially launched last year with my book Smiley Cats on Vacation. And so what we do with the foundation is that we run frequent writing courses with children in the Alexandra area where my mother's conference center is closely based. So we run writing courses there, and we also frequently donate to those children who either lost their homes in fires or by the recent floods that have been happening. So we get people from the better suburbs to contribute books, to contribute clothing, and then we send them out.
And obviously you've told me that you want to study what? Just remind me.
Human rights law.
Okay, why?
Because I feel like I don't want to continue writing all my life, that I also want to try something new, which is law and human rights laws to help people who are being deprived of what they deserve, which is their basic human rights and their basic human needs.
Tell us about this awards function that's coming up. Who conceptualized it and what's the role you play in this whole event?
So the event is taking place on Saturday, and who brought the concept...
Coming Saturday?
Yes, this coming Saturday. Who brought the concept was my parents, and they were like, okay, you're winning awards now, why don't you use your foundation to also, empower other African kids to continue doing the great work they did in their community. So last year was the first award ceremony that we had, and now it's happening annually. So the role I play is we evaluate the coming... Nominees, yes. And at the end or during the program, we hand them awards and we read out their bio and just give them some recognition and just empower them to continue.
It just makes them feel good about themselves.
Yes.
Victorine, with due respect to you and Stacey, I think you guys are an amazing family. You've achieved much, and I really and truly commend you, and you are perfect role models for the rest of South Africa, for the rest of the world. However, people might argue that you are in a very privileged position. And I know you've been through a lot of hard work and angst to be where you are today, because you've shared that story with us on a previous program. But people who don't understand how hard you work to be where you are would think, well, they are privileged, the kids have a great education, and they can go on to be achievers. Yes. What chance do we have? We're really ordinary people in township schools. What's your response to something like that?
You know, you're an amazing woman. Thank you so much for that. I was an ordinary child. I grew up ordinary, but now you're asking me as a parent. I think for me, the only way that you can change a lifestyle, moving from the point of being ordinary to the point of being an achiever, is focus. You know, most people focus on what they don't have, rather than focus on looking at what they should have. Absolutely. My husband and I come from extremely deprived background, and until today, our focus is still on what we should have. So my advice to everybody... So don't focus
on the negative, focus on the... Keep your eye on the positive.
Keep your eye where you want to go. If you slip and fall here, the moment you stand up, your eye is on the next step. Your eye shouldn't be where you fell. And that is exactly what has moved us forward. That is exactly why we are where we are. And I'll give you a typical example of the reason why most parents, my generation, are not moving forward or are not pulling their children along like Emmanuel and I are pulling Stacey and the siblings. Most of them do not want to dedicate their time for their children. Most of them would rather buy a bottle of cold drink than to drink tap water and pay transport for their children to go to a motivational event. I've seen that. I've been in commitment with parents where they would tell me they want to bring their children, and then the next thing they say they don't have money to bring the child. But they're wearing artificial hair. They've got artificial nails. And I ask myself, could those things not have paid transport? The foundation doesn't ask you for anything. We have an event, we ask the children to pay 10 rand and we offer them food. Parents cannot bring the children. So how then would this child be motivated to move? How then are you mimicking or role modeling your child to say you're moving?
Prioritization,
yes.
Isn't it?
So so for me, I just feel like poverty will be there, lack of growth will be there, pity cries will be there, as long as people do not focus on the next step.
Absolutely. Almost wrap-up time. Final words from you, dear Stacey Frew.
Yes. So my final words is that the amount of support that I've been shown since I first wrote my book is amazing. And all the people that continue to support me, I am absolutely grateful. And
you're selling lots of copies.
I am selling lots of... All of these books, all 5 of them are for sale, and you can visit... on my website, www.staceyfrew.co.za, as well as my social media pages at Stacey Frew on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
How many followers do you have?
On?
Yes, on Facebook.
I don't do Facebook.
Oh, you don't do? Or Instagram?
Instagram, I have about 1,100 followers.
Oh, good on you, girl. But it's not going to turn your head, is it?
No.
Final words from you, dearest Victorine.
I think for me is to also follow on Stacey's suit to say thank everyone who supported us. But in life, there is so much to take. All I want to say to people is go out there and take.
You're so grounded, and you're offering, because I've been to your training center several times, not only once, and I see how much you're putting back into the community. So we're here celebrating Stacey Frew's successes. In the past, we celebrated your success by talking about 2 of the books you'd written. But what I admire about you is that you are putting back into the communities, the less than communities, and I admire you for it. And you're not even, well, you probably are now a naturalized South African citizen, but you migrated to this country many years ago for a better life. And that's exactly...
17 years.
And that's exactly what you've achieved.
Yeah. No, that is true. Thank you so much for that. You make me always teary when you talk about that. But I feel like you cannot journey alone. You have to journey with people. And Stacey's dad is an amazing person. To be honest with you, I wasn't a giver. My husband is the giver, but he gives through me. You know, and he's the person who would always say to me, you cannot be elevated when others around you are not elevated. We don't have, we give the little we have, we share the little we have, and I think from that growth comes.
Absolutely. And, you know, I've heard so much about your better half that I think the next time we need to have Mr. Shibangu on my show.
Frew. Where did you see Shibangu?
Oh, I beg your pardon. Is it
Dr. Frew?
Dr. Frew. Okay, there you go. And really, we need to have him on the show. But thank you indeed
if
for...
he comes.
I'm sure he will. Thank you for an enlightening 15 minutes. Good luck, continued success with your books and your life going forward. And please do continue touching lives the way you guys have already done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
sis.
Go
Thank
well,
you so
God
much.
bless.
You too.
And there you have it. We've come to the end of the show. I started out this morning by sharing good news, and that was news of the rain in the Johannesburg area. I'm stuck in the studio here, and I do hope that when I go out, it is still, that we are still being showered by blessings from the heavens. But if not today, that's a promise that it is sure to come. It is a Saturday. Please take care on the roads. A big thank you to the production team. A big thank you to all the guests on the show, and especially to you for keeping me company right up until now. Till the next time, as always, take care, and it is Khoda Hafiz from me, Julie Alli.
قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا، حني قلبي على جمعة الخير